Cool. Happy high noon Thursday. Buffs, good to be back with you. Welcome to Mental Training Thursdays. My name is Bob. I use he, him pronouns. I'm the postdoc fellow here at PHP. I'm with Aaron and Chris. We're back again to continue our emotional agility series. We have 3 more on tap, including today. And today's focus is really about being your own best coach in the face of challenging emotions. But as always, we want to start off with a question from a student athlete. This is from last week's topic, which was how to win in the face of challenging emotions. So I'll kick it over to Chris for that question.
So I tried to let a wave of anxiety flow through me at practice, and it worked. I just hate that it showed up again the next day, and I felt like a failure. What am I doing wrong?
Well, in a short answer, nothing at all. So I just really want to kind of debunk what can happen for all of us, which is how we look at our own progress in life. We're keeping this specific to kind of how we work with difficult emotions in our performance or in our life. I think Aaron's done a nice job of really naming this with us. These things come back, and in many ways, our practice is about continuing to get reps. So it's normal for these waves to return. And I think where I'd love to go with this student athlete, I know you're not with us here, but a question I would really ask is, what's going on with that reaction around like, I hate this feeling, and how does that impact you? How does that serve you? Trust me, if we had a delete button for this, I would want it too. And I think in many ways, this is where we can get stuck in those moments. So I just want to kind of name a few things that can be helpful even today when we talk about being our own best coach. Because what a win to let that wave come through you the other day. And then typically I know in sport, like we want this is our line of progress that we want, the straight kind of 45-degree angle. But when we zoom in on what that looks like, it's doing all this, day to day, hour to hour. So I think it's really important to notice one of the transformational practices we can have is when we notice that dip, nuts, this wave came back. What do we do in that moment can really accelerate us to be back towards the progress that we want, especially when we deal with emotions. So I think what showing up for this student athlete shows up for all of us, which is, I'm sure many of us have heard the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy, and while it may feel cliche, cliches have that truth to them. And so our mind's always comparing, what's happened in the past to predict the future, but we kind of miss out on the value of the present. So one of the things that I've been using both with myself and with student athletes that I'm working with is to kind of debunk this undercurrent myth that if the wave of anxiety shows up or the thing that I thought I had worked on and succeeded at comes back, that everything's lost. So it kind of turns into the black or white, all or nothing thinking. And one of the things, this is a phrase actually from Sharon Salzberg that does a lot of work on inner encouragement, being your own best coach in the face of, any sort of pain and suffering. It's just to drop in this phrase, nothing is lost. That last day when that wave showed up and you were able to let it flow through you, that's a huge rep. We build on reps. And just because another one felt a little more challenging, it doesn't take away from everything that you've courageously been doing up to that point. And so I'll leave it there. And as always, trust in Aaron to kind of take us from there and forward into how we can be our own best coach in these moments when we know these emotions will continue to show up for us day to day.
Thanks, Bob. I love that, really thinking about how nothing is ever lost. I think a lot of the time we beat ourselves up of, I must not have done it correctly, or that was a waste of time because it came back. And just reminding yourself, you actually learned new skills when you were able to sit with that. One thing that I know has been helpful for me to keep in mind is this idea that it's a journey not a destination. And so, a lot of the time it's that thought of, okay, well, if I allow myself to go to this emotion, then I never have to go back there. And like Bob said, like that would be nice, especially for some of the more difficult emotions or more uncomfortable emotions. But the reality is it's going to come back. There's going to be other things that can trigger that. And so it's not like, oh, I've reached this destination. I've figured out how to feel this emotion and I never have to go back. I'm good to go. It's really recognizing that's not how our emotions work. They do ebb and flow. And so we'll experience a range of emotions and we'll return to challenging ones throughout, whether that's the day, the week, the month, our entire lives. And so I really like thinking about it like the ocean, like we've talked about with waves. So similar to the flow of the ocean, once there's a wave, it's not that there's no more waves. There was that one wave and that was it. And now it's good to go. Waves are still going to come up. And the thing to keep in mind is we just have to learn how to surf them better. And so reminding yourself that, okay, I went through this yesterday, or I went through this last week, I went through this last year, and I remember I was able to get through it. The next time it shows up, we're just going to be that much better at knowing how to respond to it. So kind of with that idea, we're going to move into our experiential activity. And so for those of you that feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes, or you can always just turn your gaze towards the floor and just start to pay attention to your breath without changing it, just noticing it. Once you start to feel a little more settled in your body, start to locate a challenging feeling that might be coming up. And see if there's a single location in your body that you're holding this. So maybe there's some muscle tension in your neck or your shoulders. Maybe your stomach feels a little fluttery or painful. Maybe you have an ache in your heart, a lump in your throat. And just notice where that's at. Start to feel this sensation from the inside out. And try to soften it around the edges of the location that you're holding this. Not trying to change it, but just holding the sensation in a more gentle way. So exhale into this location, really trying to bring more calm and relaxation to this emotional wave. Start to soothe yourself by imagining warmth and kindness flowing into this location of the emotion of your body. And one way to think about it might be as if it's being held in warm water. Maybe even start to offer words of encouragement, thinking about what do you need to hear right now? Something that you might share with a best friend, a teammate, a loved one. Maybe it's okay to feel this, or this will pass, or I'm here for you. Really start to recognize the courage it takes to allow yourself to feel this discomfort. Really allow yourself to let that discomfort be here, making room for it without having to change it or push it away, dwell on it, or even feel bad about just feeling it. Then start to zoom out from that location in your body, more just focusing on your body as a whole. Maybe even doing a quick scan from the top of your head down to your toes. You can even start to wiggle your toes and your fingers. Maybe start moving your body back and forth just a little bit. Checking back in with your breath. And then whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thanks so much, Erin. And, I find that transitioning out of these activities to really just notice any shifts from maybe acknowledging the wave that's here, how we're relating to it. I know for me, what really resonated was I'm not trying to delete this part of me, because how unfair would that be? It's here right now. And I think shifting out of maybe story mind of what's behind the emotion and just being in our bodies, that we can really learn to surf in such a courageous way around that. So for those of you who have given this a shot, I just want to give you all credit, we do, for how brave it is to stand in the face of your life and what emotions show up for you there. Thank you for joining us today. And next week, we're going to continue our emotional agility series. This time, we're going to focus on shifting to the positive, so certain practices that can actually lift our mood. If you have questions, reach out to me at robert.deal@colorado.edu, and we'll end with a quotation as always, this one from Jack Cornfield. And he says, "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." Wishing you a great week ahead, and go Buffs.